great. We preach this watered down gospel that makes who we are and what we do feel better, and what we are feel good about what we're doing to God. But we cannot sit here and ask God just for harvest and expect that the harvest is greater than the seed without giving any respect to the fact that the seed has to be great to be able to produce something that is greater than itself. Jesus himself said, unless a corn, as a seed die, but if it die, if it don't die, it standeth alone. But if it die, it produce much fruit. And so there has to be a process of seed, time, and harvest. And that's the only way that we will come into a fruition. That is the only way where the fullness of the giftings that we use in this time, that of the fourfold ministry that we use in this time could ever come into fruition because of seed, time, and harvest. The Bible declares that he calls the young because they're strong and the old because they know the way. That is no more than saying seed, time, and harvest. How can the young, how can the young know what to do when they're old? When they're old doesn't teach the young while they're strong. And how can foundation still be built when the young are not building the foundation because the old have now become weak? And so now we have a population, and now we have a people, we have a city where people are old and they die, and the young are becoming old, and there's no young, and we're teaching the young with young stuff, because we call it a move of God, when really it is a move of anarchy, because no story has been passed down, no tutelage has been passed down, nothing has been given, nothing has been understood, and so man cannot create man of it on itself. But in God we move, and in God we have our being, and in God who we have everything. So how can a man beget a man if he is nothing but of himself? Of dust shall you return to be. And a man is no more than an open vessel. And I think that what happens is that we get so confused of our gifting, and we get so confused of our mantles, and we begin to fuse our mantles with who we are, when we need to recognize that all I am really is a open vessel, and if I were to spill, then everything that was poured into me will fall out. It is that is with that same concept that God is able to bring the overflow, because that means to be able to have overflow, there is no cap to it. But if I not recognize the source of the overflow, I run the risk of having a broken cistern, and I will not be able to hold any living water. And we begin to fuse, and we run our gifts, and we run who we are with what God does. And I think that we confuse who we are, and we confuse the folk God uses with Jesus. We confuse the folk God uses with Jesus. And so we put them on pedestals, and we put their gifting, and we say, oh man, the revelation that the man of God had. No, the man of God had no revelation. It was God who gave gifts to men, because all good things come from above. But what we have in church is a bunch of idolatry. Idolatry, and we don't want to go there, and I'm not going to, I don't want to go, because that's deep right there by itself. But what the Israelites faced, God's people, is what we as God's people face today, and it's idolatry. We need to have some true teaching of the Old Testament. We truly need some teaching on the 10 Commandments. The second commandment declares that you should not have any false idols before me. It says that you should not have any graven images of things that are in heaven, things that are in earth, and also things that are in the water. Well, at that time, the Bible declares that there is 3 sections of heaven. And I won't get into that either, but there's 3 sections of heaven. Well, at that time, heaven in that particular scripture He was talking to the people about making images of birds. And when he said nothing in the earth, he was talking about making images of animals. And when he was talking about nothing in the waters, images of fishes and whales, because at that time, that's what the people of Israel had to deal with, the different gods of Egypt. But now that we have come into an age of intelligence and understanding, we understand that heaven, through the course of scripture, is not a place that contains God, but heaven is actually a place that God sits on, because God is never contained, has not been contained, and will never be contained. Heaven is no more than the throne of God, and the earth is his footstool. Now we recognize that heaven is his throne. Well, the scripture declares in Exodus that we are not allowed to have any images of things that are seen in heaven, on earth, and in the water. Well, let's take a look at what we got here. We got a lot of people praying to saints, and we got a lot of people praying to angels, and we have these statues of Jesus everywhere and statues of angels everywhere. That's going to step on somebody's toes right there. But Exodus declares that you're not supposed to have any images at that sense. Now, don't get me wrong, that there's wisdom now, because God didn't instruct when they were building the temple of golden this and golden ox and that and this and this, that and the third.